Hi, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'm Donna Norris. I'm a soul level intuitive serving animals and humans. Thanks for tuning in. And if this is not your first time, thanks for coming back to support my channel. If you are new, please consider hitting like or subscribe if you enjoy this installment of Awakening Journeys. Awakening Journeys is like a series of spotlight talks, which I hope will show all of us by their stories, these people's stories, that there truly are many paths to finding our soul purpose. And today's guest is Mary, magical, mystical Mary. Mary Collazzo is founder of Earth and Star Wellness Center. She is a shamanic teacher, a Reiki Master, a bard, and a former nurse. She's also a mom. I do remember that from when we met, and a successful business owner for many years now. So I don't know whether Mary's grown up developing these abilities that she has, all her talents, because she hardly looks old enough to have a son and a long track record of experience. But anyway, without further ado, I will leave this story to Mary. It's hers to tell, and look forward to hearing along with all of you. Mary?
Thanks, Donna. Thank you. I'm actually a mother of 3, and it's been an interesting year because my oldest one just went off to college. So there was this huge transition, lots of tears. I think I laid in the bed for the entire weekend crying about all of this. It was being so dramatic too. I was like, okay, my work here is done. There's nothing left for me in this town anymore. He's grown up and moved off. But it's been an interesting journey. Yes. Thank you for that introduction. There are a lot of different skill sets that I bring in the healing journey. You mentioned the shamanic journey and a lot of other little pieces like that, the Reiki, the Bardic, which is the Druidic teachings. I also incorporate hypnotherapy and Akashic readings and crystal healings, animal communication. There's a lot that kind of goes into it. So when you have a session with me, you're not just, even though I label everything as like quantum healing because we're working in your quantum levels, which is the void space, so that if we heal that, then everything that grows from that is grown from health. Even though that's the level we're working on, we're incorporating all these different skill sets and tools. So you're not just having Reiki when you have a Reiki session. You're not just having soul retrieval when we're doing quantum healing, or you're not just getting quantum healing when we do quantum healing. You're getting me and my frequency and what that means. And I feel like that's true for every healer, though, because every healer has their own trainings and experiences. So when you find a healer that you resonate with, you're not just getting a Reiki session, you're getting all of the frequencies that that healer has to offer. So it's pretty important to really resonate with the people that you work with. Energetic transmissions from your teachers and things like that are important. So you want me to go?
I know, I felt like I was walking on a cloud for weeks after I had my quantum healing session with you last year.
I wanted to ask you about that because awesome. I don't think we followed up after. So I was curious how that went for you.
It's been wonderful. Thank you. Lightened a lot of the load.
Good. So you want me to go all the way back to like childhood, being in the womb?
No, it's your story, however you want to tell it.
Well, you mentioned you weren't sure if this was something I kind of worked with throughout my whole life because of the age. And one of my clients brought this up yesterday too in session. In fact, this is a client I've been working with for 2 years, but she said the reason when she was referred to me originally that she didn't come to me was because she felt I was too young and wouldn't be able to help her with the issues she had. And that was the first time I had heard that, but like, I get it, I get it. I guess if there's a 19-year-old girl out there and someone's like, oh, you should go see her. I'm like, what does she know? She's not a mom. She's never been through this kind of stuff. So I get the concept of it. So when you say, is this something I've been working on since I was very young? The short answer is yes. And then the long answer is no. The short answer, yes, being that in order to be a compassionate healer, a mature healer, someone who's capable of holding space and having that power behind them, that comes from somebody who's been through a lot of life experiences. So absolutely, yes, from early childhood, I've been through a lot of life experiences, things that I've had to work through, that I've had to heal through. And those are the things that put a maturity behind the skill set. Those are the things that bring a passion and a love and an understanding and the drive to hold space for others who are hurting behind the skill set. Anyone can have a skill set. It's your personal experiences and frequencies and your own healing journey that brings the power behind that skill set.
Right, right.
So yeah, I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we all work through our individual frame of reference, and so it comes in through us and out in our healing, just naturally.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So I would say that I was born with some natural abilities. I remember from a very young age seeing angels and demons in my home. Things that I call them angels and demons, but I also consider myself an angel medium. So these are frequencies that I work with. I remember angels bringing me messages, but mostly just through vision. I remember one night rolling off the bed and an angel catching me and rolling me back onto the bed. And a lot of darkness in the home too, seeing these big shadow mountain monsters coming out of my closets and these little imp-like things that would live under the rugs, and a leprechaun that I saw once in the shower. And there was a wolf man that used to sit on the back of my couch. So there was a lot of things that were scary, and these were inherent gifts, things that I could see and I could hear as if they were actually there as a young child. And somewhere along the way that went away or changed. I can't necessarily pinpoint exactly when it did, although my personal guidance is screaming, 7, you were 7. You were 7 when it went away. So, and that's around the time that I moved from my childhood home to where I live now. So, or somewhere around that age. But through all of that, my mom had cancer. She passed away. A couple of my siblings who I grew up with were sent with the other side of the family. So our family was kind of broken apart and separated. There was another stepmother that came into the picture that I don't want to call her the evil stepmother, because that's, not kind or loving. And she did actually suffer with a mental illness. She had bipolar disorder, but she was abusive in some of her highs and lows, so to speak. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on at an early age. And that's pretty much just kind of continued. You go through things like that. You go through abuses and all of this stuff. You see them as your wounding time. That's kind of how I see it, is you go through a wounding period where you're learning your experiences and you're going through all of the things that are setting you up to be pushed into your healing path. I'd love to say that everyone's just born and have a great life, and then they're like, oh, I want to be a healer. But the reality is that most people who are healers, they're healers because they had to learn how to heal themselves. And then it became a passion point. So that's all that was. I went through years and years of abuses and things that I needed to heal within myself. And bringing that all the way through, there was a time when I really started feeling that word shaman. I didn't know what it was. I didn't hear it anywhere around here because I live in the Bible Belt, so there were no shamans where I'm from, but I kept hearing it over and over and over again until one literally called me on the phone and said, hey, I heard you were wanting to sign up for my training. And I was like, excuse me.
Really?
I did not sign up for that. Like, I literally did not sign up for that, but somehow she got a notification in her email with my email address, and I had some wounds around that, even because I was like, well, I don't know if I can afford it. This seems like a lot of time and effort, but it kept hitting me. Shaman, something's got to change. Aren't you tired of feeling this way all of the time? Because even when I got into a safe space and a safe relationship, I carried all the other crap with me. I was still anxious. I was still sad. I was still heavy. I still had so much in me that needed to come out. So I finally just did it. I took her course. Amazingly, the money was there anytime I needed it. The universe watched out for me. And coming through.
I love how that works.
I know, it just happens the way it's supposed to when you listen.
Yeah.
When you listen. And that training was over a year. And then that kind of led into more training and more training and more training. So, you know, I think I did the shamanism all together, those trainings, because you don't just work the medicine wheel one time, you keep working it over and over and over again. So I think I might have done, gosh, I don't know, 3 to 4 years of that before
Makes
opening
sense.
up to other trainings and then teaching and all of those sorts of things. This reminds me of my very first awakening after everything had been shut off in childhood. You want to know?
Sure. Yes.
She's like, tell me. That's what we're doing. So I told you there were no shamans where I live. So I wasn't sure.
Yeah, they're not in my neighborhood either.
Are you? No, you're in Florida now?
I am. Yeah.
But you were from Texas, right?
Yeah.
Probably not a lot there. No.
I definitely felt like the odd man out.
Oh, I bet. That's something else too, is that there's always this feeling like I'm different or I'm on the outside of something. That feeling has come up.
Like on the fringe. Like I lived on the fringe. Yeah.
It definitely felt like an observant energy, because I always kind of felt like I was on the outside watching everyone else interact. And not that I couldn't interact or anything like that, but I just always felt like I saw things slightly differently than they did, and that they acted differently. I remember one time on the playground, I think I was in the 4th grade, I just didn't really fit into any particular group or clique. And honestly, when I did, people irritated me because I felt like they were immature, weird, you know, but you could tell I had trauma early on. I grew up a little fast, I guess. So, you know, the kids, there was something about them that just seemed so surface. Like I would go out into the clover patch behind the gym and watch the bees during all of recess. Or I would go to the back of the playground where there was this husky dog that lived on the other side of the fence. And I would sit and talk to the dog through my whole recess just by myself. And eventually there was a time when people started noticing that I was doing these things. And then I had like this whole group of girls just following me around while I did those things at one point. And I was like, guys, I'm doing this because I want to be alone, but I understand. And then I had friends because they thought I was weird enough to be cool and they wanted to talk to the dog too. It worked out. It worked out. But around here, there aren't any shamans. So while I was waiting for that shaman to present itself or what that means, I asked my mother-in-law if she knew of anything metaphysical like this, because she had done Reiki training before and she was kind of into that metaphysical stuff. And she knew a woman that she called a plant spirit therapist. So this is someone who did training in Mexico. She's from Australia, but she did some training in Mexico. And she essentially, using your energy, tests what levels are out of balance in your body and then calls on the spirit of certain plants to balance those levels. So I was like, yeah, let me go to her. And I get in there and I'm talking to her and I'm like, I keep hearing the word shaman and like I'm supposed to be doing stuff. And she looked at me in her very regal Australian way. I love this woman. She's so regal and has this long neck. I love her to death. Oh my gosh, I love her. And she just looks at me quietly and says, why don't we just start with a guided meditation? And I was like, okay, cool. So we just did a guided meditation. She laid me down on her floor and she guided me through this little meditation. And I tell you what, everything burst wide open. Like everything that I'd forgotten opened. I felt the heat in my root between my hips. I felt it the whole way driving home. And I was like, what is this heat? It feels crazy. But like during that meditation, I was seeing all of my guides, like all of my guides came forward at once. I saw them in animal form and in human form. I went on this journey. It was amazing. Like everything opened up. And after that, I was in like Flint, man. I was in. I was all hands on deck. Okay, I understand it. There's something happening here. This is a calling. It's got to be done. It was great.
Wow. A literal burning bush. I mean, pardon the pun. Yeah. I mean, just.
I like that you said burning bush because woman actually, she holds grandfather fires every month at her house because she works with the spirit of the fire. And so we have these meetings to honor the spirit of the fire. And we go every so often and see a shaman who channels grandfather fire spirit, and you can ask questions and get answers. It's great. I love it. So there's a whole element of fire there. So you were channeling when you said burning bush. You were channeling her there.
Yeah, well, you know, it's all about the fire. And for those people who are listening who maybe are not all that familiar with chakras and the colors, you know, the root and what's between your hips and all that is, you know, red and orange and the color of fire. So, and you talked about the heat and just immediately called that forth. Yeah.
Yes, it was like the Kundalini energy just woke up and started moving through the body. It was an amazing instance. So we just ran with it and started healing and spent years and years healing and getting trainings and becoming who we were meant to be.
Nice. At what point, I guess it was during that phase then, you know, you started doing Reiki training and becoming a Reiki practitioner and eventually a Reiki Master. I know that's one of the things that you do in your gumbo of Mary's magical combo.
One thing I will say is if you're actually going to train to do things on other people, like if you really want to deepen your healing and heal other people, when you go through trainings or certifications, do it 1,000%. I see it so often where, you know, Reiki nowadays is like a one-day certification or an online certification where you can go sit for a few hours, listen to a few things, and you're certified in Reiki. But the reality is you have to practice it, deepen it, really feel it. My Reiki training, that was another insane thing. Like I call Reiki the ABCs of energy work as if it's like the simplest form to learn. But my Reiki journey was actually pretty difficult. And I learned from my Reiki Master teacher. And while I was learning, I broke my foot. So I couldn't rush. I was being taught by the universe how to slow down, how to be still, how to be calm, how to be steady. I dropped a bass guitar on my foot from a standing position. And I don't know if you know how heavy an electric bass guitar is. It was very heavy, like the strap broke. Directly on my foot. And this was right before I was about to walk out the door to have my first Reiki class. So I was limping for large amounts of time, but I went, I had my Reiki class. I couldn't walk for a few weeks. So I really had to be still. And there's a 21-day cleanse. You've taken Reiki, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, there's that 21-day cleansing period after the Reiki attunement.
Attunement. Yeah,
Yeah.
between each one at minimum. I mean,
Yeah.
I studied over the course of several months.
And after
And we
the
had to do a practicum and all of that at each one. Yeah.
yes, good. So it just, during that 21-day period, where my energy was naturally cleansing itself after the attunement, I decided, what the heck? I'm just going to go ahead and purposely detox myself. Also, I'm going to not drink coffee, not drink alcohol, and not eat any meat. Seems simple enough, right? I was dying. I was dying. Like, I tell you, I was out of my body. I was dizzy, and I had so many tonsil stones, might be what they're called. I actually had tonsil stones. I had stones coming out of my throat during this detox period. It was insane. It was a whole thing, a whole thing. So after all of that, though, I went on to take Reiki 2 and did another purposeful cleanse in that. And that cleanse wasn't as hard on my physical body. But during that cleanse, I started to get visions of the symbols themselves. Because Reiki 2 is really where you start working on other people and using the symbols as prayers to like heal certain intentions and things like that. And I started getting visions of the symbols over the body and how they work and what those prayers are supposed to mean. And that was a really big thing. I went to my Reiki Master teacher and told her about it, and she was super excited about that as well. I don't think that she had that experience, so she really wanted to sit with me and talk about that. And I drew it out. I wrote things about it. I have not received information on the last symbol yet. That's something I'm still sitting with, because these are visions that come when you're ready for them, when you need them. But it was something that really deepened that experience, so that we're not just practicing Reiki as a hammer or a screwdriver, but we're becoming the Reiki frequency as we understand it and mesh with it.
And that was like a visceral shift that you got to experience, as you shifted into that energy at the second attunement. Wow. I don't know that I've heard of that happening with anyone, not with my instructor and not with me. Not to that degree. That's pretty amazing.
Well, like the tonsil stones, I mean, maybe that just shows that I was extremely wounded stepping into that. I think my throat and my sacral were definitely a couple of places, and the solar plexus, all of that were places that I really needed to purge from.
Release. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I like to deepen those things in all of my training. I love to kind of go into it and just become it for a while. In my bardic training, we do a lot of ceremony. We learn for a while, and the bardic training took a little over a year. So after, you have a lesson every single week that you have to do, and then you have a ceremony or ritual that you have to do every week. So it becomes a lot of work when you add it on to your regular job and life and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But those ceremonies feel so good. They feel so good. They move things energetically that your mind can't logically understand. So every week we're like going into this sacred circle. I'm meeting with my druid guide, and we're doing these rituals with all of the elements and with all of the prayers, and just invoking all of nature and becoming one with the frequencies of nature, the frequencies of story, the frequencies of history, because that's what the bards do, is they keep history through stories, kind of parable-like stories, because it's known that people can understand parables much better than they can grasp onto like nonfiction.
Right.
through parable stories, through music, dancing, poems, art, all of those things, rituals, ceremonies. These are all ways that we hold on to the history and the stories. But the interesting thing is that the history, there's always a creation story. And the history is actually a spiritual story, how the spirit came to be, how it works with the masculine sides and the feminine sides, how we apply it into the physical world. So all of our creation stories, even if you see them as fact, they can also work as parables to understanding your soul and how it interacts within the yin and yang of the universe.
That's wonderful. Yeah, parables are so relatable. People can see themselves, a life application, with themselves in a parable. Whereas if they're just reading nonfiction or reading a story, it's not quite the same. I can appreciate that. Yeah. So I know, like last year when we first met, we met at a conference. For those of you who are not familiar with, I forgot to tell that part. And at the end of the conference, we had a closing ceremony that you were leading, was where we all put our hand on the shoulder of the person in front of us and we just formed all these circles out, and the circle got bigger and bigger. That was the most powerful ceremony. Was that from the Bardic training? Were you pulling from that, or was that from some other modality that you used to do that releasing and closing? Do you remember?
Yes, I remember.
Man, I was levitating. Everybody was. There were so many tears and so much emotion. Powerful stuff.
Ceremony is super important. There's a few different areas that I build my practice on. One of them is expression, which I deem more the Bardic stuff. One of them is the teachings, and then one of them is ceremony. That particular ceremony actually comes from my shamanic training, and that's through Alberto Vialdo's teachings that he got from the Amazon and the Andes. And that particular ceremony is not traditionally like that at all. That was something I very specifically downloaded and guided to me for this event. And I wasn't even sure how I was going to do it until I got there. I wasn't even sure how I was going to do it till the day before I did it, because they told me what to do and I was like, I don't get it. I don't understand how it's going to work. And then it just did. So in the shamanic realms, that's called a waka, which is really just the opening of a portal. And traditionally what you do is a shaman opens their portable altar, their mesa, and they open a waka inside of it. And they leave that energy portal with a person, and it's opened with a very specific intention for whatever that person means. And once you open the portal, you can't close it. It stays open until it's done its job, and then it closes itself. So these are things that you would open for somebody who had cancer and needed to make the change. So what that portal does when you open it for that person and leave that with that person is that portal will work to remove everything from their life that caused them cancer. And sometimes this means toxic people, toxic relationships, toxic habits. And those are all things that will slowly start to shed away from the person until the portal closes. That event with 100 and something people, how many were there? 125 or something like that?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
And
yeah.
It was a lot. I was like, how am I supposed to do this? And this is such a powerful thing that a lot of the shamans that I know have never even had to open this for themselves. So, it was like a whole, it's a very powerful type ceremony. And I went in there, and the day before it happened, I held hands with Kevin, the healing medium, who was also there. And when we held hands, we were doing something. It was during one of you guys' meditations or something. him and I joined hands. And when we did, I felt the energy come in his body through my hand and out my other hand. And we both looked at each other at the same time. And we were like, did you feel that? He said, yeah, I felt that. Did you feel that? I said, yes, I felt that. So I realized that his energy was compatible with mine, and he could help me channel this portal, because for 100 and something people, it had to be huge. And I really had doubts about my body physically being able to hold that much energy. So he got up there and he helped me channel that portal through until it was big enough for all of those people. And that's why we all joined in the circles, and everyone had to touch everybody else. Everyone had to be touching to reach the center, so that the energy of the portal spread out through each person until it encompassed everybody in the room. So everybody who was touching received that waka inside of themselves and left the conference with it. And it did whatever it did, whatever they needed, until it closed, until it had done its job.
But it also felt like it was, I could feel it moving through me. You could almost like feel the wind whooshing in the energy in the air. And I felt like there was part of it was pulling forward, lending strength and support to you and Kevin, and at the same time receiving. It was, I don't know how to describe it, but it just felt like it was swirling and circulating like that.
Just like a vortex.
Yes, I guess so. Just like an energy. Yeah.
It was a very sacred time. It was extremely sacred, extremely sacred. I think that one person who was there said the doors were moving, like from that vortex, that wind blowing through. There was one person who was upset because they had to miss it. There were multiple people who seemed to get sick the night before that and had to leave. And then they were upset that they missed that. And I had to tell them, look, that was divine. You weren't meant to have that energy running through your body, acting however it was going to act for whatever reason. Not that you weren't ready, but maybe you didn't need it right then. So if you got sick at that conference and had to go home, you just lucked out, because that would have torn through you so you got what you needed.
It was pretty powerful. People couldn't stop talking about it. That's great.
At this event, at this Connect to Empower this coming October, I'm not going to be doing a ritual or a ceremony. I'm going to be teaching this year.
Oh.
So, yes. So I'm excited about that.
Good. Good. Yeah, this year's going to be structured a little bit differently. In a way, it's going to be more intimate, because we'll have breakout sessions with people on the second day, and, we'll get to have 3 small groups come through and work with smaller groups of people rather than everybody all at one time. So I think that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that, and to see what everyone has to offer.
I am too. I think that that'll be good, because we can do more like hands-on stuff, more guided journey work, and things like that with the smaller groups. So with the larger group, I'm going to be just teaching on a brand new medicine wheel. I'm not teaching the medicine wheel I normally teach to students, because that's a year-long certification.
Right.
But with this one, I downloaded a very specific message about the next medicine wheel when the collective levels up, what it's going to look like. And I'm calling this the transcendental medicine wheel. Once we transcend where we are right now collectively, and what that looks like. So we'll be taking one little element out of that and deepening that in our breakout sessions. And that's going to be shape-shifting.
Whoa. Okay.
Yes, we're going to be working on shape-shifting in our breakout sessions. And I feel like that kind of goes even hand in hand with a lot of what you do, because most of the things that we shapeshift into are animal forms, and understanding the teachings and medicines that each individual animal has to offer, their personal spiritual frequencies and things like that.
Yeah, this year, instead of animal communication, I'll be talking about animal spirits and animal spirit guides. And
Ah,
so,
perfect.
yeah,
Yes.
so I think we're all going to dovetail so beautifully for the people who are coming this year. I'm excited about that. Again, it's sold out right away. So I know that we'll be surrounded by compassionate, loving, like-minded people. There's nothing like that experience to bathe in that for 2, 3 days. So looking forward to it.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. But in addition, in our everyday life, I know I have some classes coming up in October, November. They are animal communication classes. And then you have some classes coming up, and you have ongoing classes and certifications that you offer through the Earth and Star Spiritual Wellness Center. Is that not right? Am I correct in that? Yeah.
Yes. Well, when you go to the Earth and Star website, because it's a nonprofit, when you book with me individually, it'll bring you over to the Rustic Raven. And that's
Okay.
like my personal business under the umbrella of the nonprofit. So if you hear either of those names, they're both me. I'm the Rustic Raven, and Earth and Star is the nonprofit that I founded. I'm the president of that nonprofit, but I'm not building that by myself. There are other people in there working with me behind
Sure.
the scenes. But yes, we have ongoing classes where I teach the medicine wheel. So this is, like I mentioned, a year-long course, and you can step onto the medicine wheel at any time. The way that I have it structured is there's virtual teachings every month, but then you also get a couple of over the phone if you're long distance, or in-person mentorship meetings with me to ask questions about those, to receive your rights, to talk about the trades that you've done, because in this you get to learn how to do healings on other people, and then also have the opportunity to get those healings done on yourself. So we spend 3 months in each direction of the medicine wheel, really learning about that and deepening that. And that is your first turn around the medicine wheel. And you can continue doing that on your own, however many turns you want to. And each time you take a turn around the medicine wheel, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper for you in your healing journey. Do you have a bird, or is that a dog?
That's my little small dog, and one of the neighbor's dogs decided to bark. Who knows? And he's barking in solidarity. So I apologize if you can hear that.
What kind of dog do you have?
He's in the other room. He gets this teenagery kind of voice. So he's talking smack in between the barks.
Ooh. I keep envisioning just this little Yorkie or something.
He's a toy poodle. Yeah. Little 5-pound ball of energy.
Love that. My grandmother had a toy poodle, and she loved the toy poodle so much that after she passed, she had a statue made of her toy poodle.
Oh, yeah.
She kept a statue of her poodle forever. We also do Reiki certifications, and these can go both ways, because the Reiki certification, if you want to do it in a group setting, I do Reiki 1 every November and Reiki 2 every May. And then we do the Reiki Master occasionally every other year or something like that, because obviously those classes aren't going to be near as full as the Reiki 1 classes. And the Reiki Master classes tend to go for like once a month for 6 months is how we do that. So it's a bigger course as well. So we only offer that one once every so often. But that's just for the group setting. If you kind of want that one-on-one time, or you want to be able to step into this whenever you want to, then that is something you can book with me personally. And you might have to book it a month or 2 in advance, because that is like a full day thing. So you have to make sure that the schedule allows for it. But we can spend the whole day, just you and me, going over all of the material, learning how to do the stuff, learning the symbols. And then I send a certificate at the end of that, and you go through your 21-day cleanse and move on to the next level the next year. I do try to recommend at least 6 months between the first and second level. So that's generally my recommendation, but not everybody's on the same path. You know, some people need less than that, and some people need more according to their own personal path and energy frequency.
Sure. And it's good that you're able to personalize it in that way, because we all do have different levels. We're coming at it from a different place. So it's good that you can meet us where we are. All of us who seek your time and attention. Thank you for that.
Of course.
Not everybody does that.
Yeah, I like to do that. I think the group setting is really cool because you get to hear other people say things or ask questions that you really want to ask, and maybe you're too shy to ask, and you can kind of feel that community and like you're not alone. But the one-on-one stuff, I think, is really good for the maturity and saturation of what you're learning. Saturation is a good word for that, because I do notice in group settings, you might have some people who have been doing this for a really long time and who know a lot about spirituality. They just need the formal training. And then you have people who just learned about this last week and want to do it, and they have no idea anything about energy. And so there's nothing wrong with either one, but when you have people on opposite spectrums, these people have to listen to these people ask a lot of simpler questions. And so sometimes they're not getting the full saturation of what they could be from the teacher. Whereas in a one-on-one setting, the teacher is very in vibe with what that specific student needs. And so they can get more of the tailored information that they need with that specific thing. So those are the two trainings that I do on a regular basis, aside from just sessions that I do Monday through Friday.
Right.
One thing I do want to mention, just since we're talking about the awakening story, and anyone who has worked with me long enough knows this about me, I like to have an intention for everything that I do. So since we've come through the awakening story and understanding what it took to become a compassionate healer who wants to hold that space for other people, when I stepped into healing for other people, I went through a journey on my own where I was asked essentially by my guidance team, what do you want to create? And my soul responded, life. And this is a story I like to tell because I think it's really, really important that when you're doing healing work, when you're teaching people, when you are doing anything, even just a regular job, you need to understand what your intention is, what you're trying to create by doing the thing that you're doing. Otherwise, it simply becomes aimless and not purposeful. And my soul responded, life, which means that in all of my sessions and through my teachings and through all of the things that I'm doing here, my underlying intention and frequency is always to bring that fresh breath of life, to bring whatever life means to you, to reignite the fire, to bring the inspiration, whatever makes you feel like you're actually living. That's the goal of what I'm doing and the intention in that. The nonprofit has a slightly different intention, which is to bring people to their feeling and understanding of home, which is why our slogan there is welcome home, because we realize that home isn't a place that you go to or that you run to, but that you are your home, your soul is your home. So it's about bringing people to that feeling of always being home, of always being safe, of always being inspired inside of themselves. So having those two intentions coupled, I think, is a very beautiful thing. And I just want people to know that when they come here, those are the things that we're operating with the intention of for them.
So you can look forward to feeling safe and supported and protected and encouraged and inspired.
I would say so, yes. Maybe not always, your wounded perspective of what that should look like, but definitely of what that is. That's one thing I really had to teach my first round of medicine wheel students is a lot of people, when they step into learning healing, is we're not going to be codependent in any capacity. You come to me for healing and teaching, I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to expect you to make changes to fix it. And if you don't, there's no point in you coming to me. Why are you here? If you come, it's because you want those changes. I'm going to tell you what changes need to be made, and it's your job to do it. So that's loving to me.
I think that's something that is missing in a lot of teaching and, well, in a lot of life. You know, it's the accountability. People are just not used to it anymore, to being held accountable.
Accountability.
We are responsible for our own growth. We are our own white knight. You know,
Yes.
we can't wait for one to ride in on a white horse. You know, we are our own white knight.
Accountability has been a huge word this week alone. That's been coming up a lot. Your face. Yes.
Funny you should mention that. Yeah.
It really has. And accountability and consequences, these are words that sometimes I think people feel fearful of, but they're not negative things. They're just results or things that need to happen. So to me, that feels very loving to hold people accountable for their own healing. You know, because when people come to me for healing, I'm going to tell you, I'm not the one healing you. I'm facilitating messages between you and your guidance. I'm facilitating the movement of energy because you're here because you probably just don't know what to do to heal yourself. So that's where my frequencies and my training can step in. But unless you make those changes or you practice a different way of thinking, you're still not going to heal. So this is the client being held accountable for their own life and not just coming to me every single time they have a negative emotion. If someone becomes dependent on me, I'm not doing my job as a healer. These people need to be inspired, lit up, healed, and on their way to empowerment so that they can learn how to do these things for themselves in the future.
Right. We generate the shift. The student generates the shift. The teacher is the facilitator. Come here, Cujo.
Oh, let me see. Hi, baby.
This is Bogey.
He's so cute.
He was the voice that you heard earlier.
Let me out. She needs to see how cute I am.
Yeah. So, he's my boy. My littlest boy. Anyway. Well, Mary, it's just been wonderful having you. Is there anything else that you want to tell everyone about in anticipation of the fact that, you know, this will go on the internet and be seen for months and months and people could tune in at some point in the future?
I might throw a little teaser out there for you guys that Earth and Star is going to be hosting its first retreat June of 2025. So this is going to be an experiential adventure. So listen to those words, experience and adventure.
Sounds participatory.
Yes, it's very participatory. So I'm not going to give a lot of details until after October. Sometime in November, December, we're going to do a soft launch for our clients and for our followers who are already on our email list. So giving those people an opportunity to get their tickets first at a reduced rate. And then probably in January, we'll do a hard launch to the general public. So make sure you guys are getting on email lists. If you've had a session with me at all ever in the past, you're already on my email list, so you don't have to do anything extra.
Okay.
And you guys will be notified first about this event when we do launch it. that
Good.
I'm
And we'll have to schedule a time for you to come back and appear on my channel again when you're ready to launch it to the public, and we can talk more about it at that time. I'd love for you to come back.
I'm so excited. I want to tell you everything right now. Donna, I want to tell you everything. Fire's going to be involved. I'm telling you that. Like, I want to tell you everything. I just can't. I have to keep it safe and sacred for a little bit.
We'll let it percolate for a little bit, and then you can bubble out later. But thank you. That's exciting. Very exciting. Well, Mary, again, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you being here. I know my viewers are going to enjoy this installment, and I look forward to seeing you again in October.
I know. I'm so excited to see you. Thank you so much for asking me to be on your channel. It's such a, I want to say warm and inviting place, but the word elegant also comes up. I don't know why. Like, there's just an elegance to it. Maybe it's the feel from all the crystals behind you, but there's this cuddliness too. So it's been a fun hour.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming to see me. I appreciate it. And of course, everyone else does too.
Thanks.
So, until next time, I'll just say bye for now. Bye, everybody. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you liked what you saw here today. We'll have Mary back again. Thanks again. Take care.